So, hi, Diep, how are you?
Doing all right yourself?
Good, thank you. Welcome to Live with Jonathan on the Language Smart English Speaking Group. It's great to have you with us. This is the second interview that we've done with members of our group, and we're delighted that you've accepted our invitation, and we look forward to finding out a bit more about you. So, if you could introduce yourself to everybody, um, who are you? Where are you from? What do you do?
Cool. Hey, Jonathan and everyone, three people watching. First of all, thanks for having me here, giving me the opportunity to talk to you and to other people. I actually interview quite a few different people. That's what I do, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. But this is my first time being interviewed, so quite interesting. So my name is Diep, and I was born and raised in Vietnam, right? A little country in Southeast Asia, close to China and Thailand, if those two names are more familiar to you. And but I went to Australia and I lived there for 5, 6 years, more or less, to pursue my university education. So I went to Sydney and lived there for 5 years or so for my bachelor's degree, and then Melbourne for a year and a half for my master's degree.
I can hear
And
a bit of the Australian accent, actually. I can hear a little bit of
oh,
this.
I'm gonna take that as a compliment. And so,
Really? No, no,
yeah, I've been right. Yeah, I came back to Vietnam in 2015 because of some reasons, and I've been
Mhm.
teaching English since.
Wow. So that's quite incredible. You went to a completely different country. How did that come about? Why did you go over to Australia?
What a beautiful day! My parents just asked me, "Do you want to go study overseas?" And I said, "Why not?" I was actually was um, in my first year in university in Vietnam, and my parents just offered me the such an awesome opportunity, and so I couldn't say no.
Yeah,
It
right.
was everybody's dream to go and study, particularly in Australia, because Australia became, I'd say, relatively more popular or famous thanks to Sydney Olympic 2000. And
Right.
so in the early 2000s, Sydney, and in particular in Australia, became one of the top, destinations for overseas students. And so, yeah, it was like a dream come true for me. So,
And did you feel like it significantly enhanced your English language abilities? Was it important for you to
I,
be?
absolutely, yeah. Before I set foot in Australia, I couldn't, even form a simple sentence in English.
Oh,
So
really?
I was
Wow.
a
Okay.
typical Vietnamese student learning English at school. It was everything like grammar based and exam oriented. And
Yes.
so coming to Australia, it was sort of like a real motivation for me to really start learning English with a purpose, and the purpose is to communicate
Right.
rather than to pass an exam. And so, um,
Sure.
yeah, it was a real motivation for me, and also a real challenge. Yeah, I'm right.
Sure.
That was about it.
What was the biggest challenge that you faced? Because I think a lot of the people that are on our group, they are in a similar type of
Mm,
situation to you. They've learned English
right.
grammar, they've learned the theory, they've spent time doing that, but they recognize that it's speaking is the key. And so, what were the challenges that you faced, and how did you overcome them?
The biggest challenge for me when I first started learning English in 2008, that was, just a few months before I went to Australia, that was um, to try to get the words out of my mind. So I had,
Right.
let's just say quite a bit of vocabulary in my head, but I struggle to bring them out and put them and make meaningful sentences, in conversations. And so I try to translate word by word from my native language, which is Vietnamese,
Yeah.
into English. And so that was really difficult to get rid of that habit. And I eventually figured out a way that I try to focus on the key words and the main idea and try to build the sentences around it rather than just translating word by word. So it worked for me. I'm not sure if it's going to work for people, but it works for me.
Could you? That's very interesting. So it's actually you sound like you've come up with a theory here of how to do this. Could you give us an example of that? That's actually fascinating. Like, give an
Yeah,
example of
well,
how you would build the idea.
yeah. For example, if the question asks or the question goes like, what's your favorite color and why? So in my native language, I would start with, uh, I like pink because um, pink brings me joy, and pink. Uh, if I translate it word by word, literally, it just doesn't work.
Yeah,
If I translate it word by word that way in English, it just doesn't sound natural. So in English, I'd say, oh,
right.
I'm in love with pink, for example, or it's just off the top of my head, I can, go with pink, for example.
Yeah.
So it's like all roads lead to Rome, I'd say. There are many ways
Mhm.
to get to the point. But if you translate word by word from your native language, you're going to fix your mind and the perspective into
Uh-huh.
one rigid path that you can't get out of. And if you struggle to translate one out of the many words, then you become nervous. You feel
Yes,
stuck. You feel
sure. So
lost.
in a sense, you've really got to open your mind, is what you're saying.
That's right.
It's not about
Yeah.
just sort of translation, word by word, phrase by phrase.
Mm-hmm.
There's almost like,
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like you're saying it's like a playing that needs to go on. You're playing in a way
Mm-hmm.
with the ideas, and you're trying to find different ways to combine them. Is that
Yeah.
would that be
Because that's
accurate?
right. Ideas are universal. Ideas are
Hmm.
universal. Languages like English and Vietnamese, the two languages share a lot of similarities, but there are also
Interesting.
differences in
Okay.
the way that we form the
Mm,
sentences. But ideas are universal.
right.
For example,
Sure.
pink, it's universal, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Right. Okay. Fascinating. So you came back from Australia. Suddenly, you were able to
Mhm.
speak English. Were you fluent? What level would you say you were at by the time you returned from Australia?
This is a difficult question because when I came back from Australia, I got a lot stronger of an accent, you know. But
Right.
it sort of fades as I blend in living with the
Right.
Vietnamese people, and because my job is a teacher, so I normally use simple English to communicate with my students, and so it also plays a role in influencing the accent and the level of English that I have. And so when I first
Sure.
came
It has
back
an
from
influence.
Australia, I'd say if now I am 7 out of 10, I'd say it was an 8.5 out of 10 when I first came back from Australia.
Oh, okay. Do you get a chance to speak English to native speakers often now, or are you mainly kind of teaching, and therefore it's the people whose language level is lower than yours?
It's COVID-19 now, the pandemic's hit everybody. It's been around for the past
Yeah.
2 years or so. And so I mainly just go online and look for platforms like Facebook or some other platforms that
Mm.
allow people to connect and make friends. And so, yeah, a
Yeah.
few native speakers, if you're lucky, right? So being
Right.
here, talking
Right.
to you, Jonathan, all the way from London is a privilege. Apart
That's a
from
privilege.
that, yeah, it's difficult to get access to communicating with native English speakers in my country because there are not a lot
Mhm.
of them. And well, if they are around, then they don't just have time to talk to you because they get nothing
Right.
out of it, right? They feel
Right.
exploited. That's, I can't find
Sure.
out the ways to put it. They feel exploited.
Sure. I hear that. I understand that. Okay.
Mm.
So now you're a teacher, as you do. Is it primarily online teaching you're doing? And who are you teaching? Is it young people? Is it adults? Is it both? Um, Tell us a bit about your teaching and how you approach your teaching as well. What do you do in your sessions?
Right. Long story short, from 2015, when I came back to Vietnam, I started teaching as a lecturer at a university, teaching the major that I did in university, which was finance. So I was a finance
Okay.
lecturer teaching at one of the leading universities in the capital city and also in Vietnam. And then after that, I fell in love with English, and so
Right.
sort of veered into a different profession that was to teach English. And so been teaching English for a couple of years now, also at the university professionally. So most of my students are university students, but on the private side, private coaching and teaching, I do also have a lot of, kid students aged from 5 to teenage students. So yeah, it's
Wow, so
varied,
quite a range of
different
different
level.
levels. Yeah, amazing. That
Yes,
must be
yes,
very, very
yes.
interesting. When you start
Yes,
with a 5-year-old,
mm,
when you start with a 5-year-old and they don't know any English, what do you do with them? How do you
mm.
get them started? What's your approach?
It's hard to say because some 5-year-olds, have a great command of English because of their background, and so
Uh-huh.
you know what I mean. So it depends. It depends. But mainly
Okay.
right now,
Well, some of them actually.
I'm also teaching.
No, no, sorry.
Right
Carry on,
now, I'm
please.
also teaching a 5-year-old and a 6-year-old and their brothers, and the mom can speak English, and so she's a great
Right.
teaching assistant. Even though I'm giving a lesson online, but she's helping me a lot. If without her, I don't think I can do the job as good. So it depends on the student's level and their background. Maybe they came back from the USA, or they came back from Australia, from England, and they already possess a certain level of English.
Right. Okay. And it's primarily, do you teach on Zoom that you do your online sessions? Is that how you do it?
I've been using Sky for a while now and started using
Yeah.
Zoom, the past
Right.
few weeks because
Yeah.
everybody's on Zoom now. So gotta go with the
You're Zoom.
flow, I
Right. Right.
guess.
Right. Sure. Okay. And you
Yes,
said that you also interview people. Um, where do
that's
you
right.
interview? You have your own Facebook group, is that correct?
That's right. That's right. I started a YouTube channel and a community
Okay.
on Facebook, particularly for the Vietnamese people. And so I go around, I connect with people and ask them for the permission to talk to them, to interview them. And each person brings along a story to share. Whatever the story is, there's some message and a lot for people to listen to and to learn a thing or two from their story. And so basically, I film the interview. I'll be the interviewer, and I talk to them. And the content of the interview varies. It's up to them, as long as they feel comfortable talking about it and sharing with the world. You know, and based on the content of the interview, I've designed an English lesson on it, around it, to teach the Vietnamese
Okay.
people with the focus on
Ah.
some linguistic points. So, for example, I interview you, Jonathan, from London, and you decide that you're going to talk about the weather in London because, right? And so, based on the content of the interview about the weather, I design a lesson, teach the Vietnamese people an English lesson based on the content, which is the weather. Maybe gonna have some extracts. Say, oh, Jonathan said it's going to be rainy tomorrow, so I focus on the grammatical point. It's going to be. Why? Why is he saying going to be, but not will be, or not it is
Ah.
rainy? You know,
Sure.
something like that. So for each
So that
episode,
that
I've
forms.
designed
Yeah.
two
Yeah.
videos. Yeah,
Hmm.
one is the interview
Sorry. Carry
itself,
on.
and the second one is the lesson.
Right.
That's it.
So, am I understanding this correctly? When you say you go around asking people, where do you find these people to interview
Hmm.
them? You talk about you go to the street, or you just people you already know?
Sometimes literally going around, you know,
So I was
literally
wondering.
going
Okay,
around and
that's so
asking
much.
people randomly. Yeah, because
Oh
there's some
wow.
pedestrian areas, some pedestrian areas in my city. I just, take the camera and walk around and hit them up
Sure.
and ask if they are up for a talk.
I
So,
love that. Yeah, I
and
love that
sometimes I
idea.
also
Brilliant.
contact people. Yeah. Sometimes I also, come up to people and ask them directly online. For example, I've read a very interesting piece of article or a documentary about something or someone, and I deliberately get in touch with them. And I say, hey, this is what
Yes.
I do, and are you interested? Are you cool with being the guest on my channel and everything? Yeah.
Amazing. And are generally people receptive to this on the whole? Like, would you say most people sort of agree to it, or kind of 50% of them? How many actually agree to come on, the people you ask in general?
The better half say yes. So that's about 60 to 70%. Been very
Wow,
fortunate.
that's
That's
amazing.
right. And
That's amazing.
so I met more than 10 interviews so far. I took a
Fantastic.
long break because of personal reasons,
Yeah.
but in total, that's more than
Sure.
10 interviews. Was one hitchhiker from Japan. He's been traveling around the world, hitchhiking around the world for 10 years straight to almost
Oh
100
wow.
countries. That was amazing. And a guy from
Wow.
India, a few Vietnamese people, people like that. So there's
Wow.
no
That's
limit in terms of content and in terms of the people that I talk to.
fantastic.
Therefore, yeah, no limit in terms of like the connection that I'm going to bring about to people and introduce to people, like
Right.
yeah, what the kind of the
Well,
world that we're
nowadays
living in. So
exactly. Yeah, I mean, nowadays with the tools we have, I mean, I'm also considering doing the same thing, and at the moment,
mm,
interviewing members of our group, and anyone watching, we're looking for other people to interview as well if you're interested. But also, of course, there's no
yes.
limit to the number of people we can interview, and I think the way if it's helping other people to learn English, then that's great, and that's important.
Mm.
Um,
And the cool
okay,
thing, the cool
yeah, I think
thing, the cool thing about the channel is that I also put English subtitles in it. So of course, when
uh,
I communicate with people in English, um, but the channel is, you know, directed at the learners of English, encourage them to
well,
speak regardless of their level. And so I put the English subtitles there and also the Vietnamese subtitles because I am Vietnamese and a lot of my audience are from
right.
Vietnam. And so,
Yeah.
it's everybody from any part of the world can watch and also learn by mimicking or maybe slowing it down to 75% in terms of speed and just, shadow as of the method. Just go along with the
Amazing. So
subtitles. Yeah.
I mean, that sounds incredible. And clearly, you've put a lot of work and effort into that, and sounds like you're having a really big
Lots of
impact on
work. That's
people.
right. That's
Yeah,
right. Lots
yeah,
of work.
yeah.
Yes.
I really commend you for that, and it sounds like you're having a tremendous
Thank you.
impact on people. I would certainly be interested if you wanted to share your YouTube channel in the comment section below at the end, and then other people can also link in and enjoy what you're doing. If that's something you're
Sounds
interested in
good.
doing, then
Cheers.
I'm sure there are people on that are watching today, or whenever they're watching, that would benefit from your YouTube channel. So that'd be great. I think we've
Awesome.
come to the end of our time today in terms
All
of the
right.
interview. But it's really really great to speak to you, to meet you, and I thank you so much for sharing everything about what you're doing and all the ways in which you're helping others. I wish you a lot of success, continued success in what you're doing.
Awesome. Thank you,
Have
Jonathan,
a
for having
great
me here. Thanks everybody for watching. And yeah, I see you around.
Yes, yes,
Awesome.
exactly.
Bye
All
for
right.
now.
Take
Yes.
care. Bye. All the best. Bye bye. Bye.